Buenas tardes a todas y a
Good afternoon, everyone, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the 6th plenary meeting of the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. This afternoon, on the 4th of June this year, we are hoping to conclude the 20th session of the High-Level Committee. Distinguished delegates, before taking up the items of our agenda of today, I would like to inform you that a video prepared by the UN OSSC on the South-South Cooperation Fund will be aired. I would like to invite you to view the video.
South-South financing through the UN system is delivering results across all sustainable development goals.
I'm a strong believer in South-South cooperation as a key instrument for the implementation of the Agenda 2030 and for a fair globalization.
Within the 4 trust funds managed by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, examples abound. In Malawi and Zambia, over 2,000 child marriage survivors were re-enrolled in their local schools through scholarships, providing them a second chance to education.
I came back when I was 15 years old. It was in the year 2016 when I came back.
1,249 women in Cambodia and Indonesia were trained in healthy and sustainable food production. In Chad, 126 acres of degraded land were reforested or rehabilitated, and 1,000 community members were trained in land management techniques. A climate early warning system was put in place for 7 Pacific countries, establishing a network of shared data collection through modern technology. In Fiji, 1,530 women learned to produce energy-efficient cook stoves from locally available materials. Quality education and youth engagement was supported through modern educational facilities and enhanced teaching capacities. In Timor-Leste, 1,200 school students gained computer literacy and access to computer labs. In Belize, a multi-purpose complex is enabling 4,000 local residents to engage in sports and community activities.
The Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous Peoples Affairs is very pleased to have been a part of the Support to Infrastructure for Human Development Health and Sports project.
Over 2,000 young professionals from around the world gained knowledge and technical expertise through Youth for South trainings, fellowships, and entrepreneurship competitions. Over 500,000 youth virtually connected.
In line with the overall experience of the courses and the professors, I want to say the courses have been so educative and interactive.
26 government officials from 11 countries in Asia and the Pacific exchanged rural development experiences through a learning tour on rural transformation. In Grenada, a building was constructed to provide low-income families with daycare and educational services for infants and toddlers.
So the fact that we have this new child development center, they now will be able to put their children in a safe home and go out to find a job or to find some of the training opportunities that is available that can help them to get a job in the future.
3 communities in Cambodia retrofitted renewable energy into their schools and farms. In Mali, 10,000 people gained access to safe drinking water through the construction of 6 hydraulic systems and 18 drinking water distribution points in 6 villages. In Barbuda, a hospital and post office were built back better after Hurricane Irma.
The post office is completed and is very valuable now for the community here in Barbuda.
In Dominica, more than 100 students have a new and extreme weather-resilient educational complex. The trust funds managed by the UNOSSE were early responders to the COVID-19 pandemic. city-to-city connections enabled contributions of medical equipment.
Your mask helps protect those around you.
Exchanges of knowledge for effective COVID-19 response were enabled among policymakers and health sector officials. Over 2,500 representatives from 1,000 cities in 140 countries learnt about local disaster risk reduction for COVID-19. 14 southern countries received medical equipment, including 54 ventilators, 10 ambulances, over 30 hospital beds, and more than 1.2 million personal protective equipment. An e-learning platform for doctors and nurses, which had developed software and equipped remote healthcare providers in Vietnam, produced a module on COVID-19 training. In Sierra Leone, the digital loan and emergency COVID-19 credit product has reached to over 15,000 underserved community members. SouthSouth Galaxy, an artificial intelligence-driven digital global platform, attracted 300 partners to virtually share their knowledge. It also enabled sharing over 600 solutions. 257 think tanks were brought together for frontier research. During this decade of action, 20 UN system entities are implementing projects across the 4 funds managed by the UNOSSE, capitalizing on their operational presence across the globe. In 2020, the combined portfolio of the 4 UNOSSE Trust Fund enabled 91 projects across 53 countries, as well as regional and global initiatives. These 4 trust funds vary significantly. The India, Brazil and South Africa Facility for Poverty and Hunger Alleviation, operational since 2006, is a remarkable example of coordinated action by 3 southern countries, working jointly with the UN system for the benefit of other developing countries. The India, Brazil and South Africa Fund has directly supported 31 developing countries with $40 million. Through the Perez Guerrero Trust Fund since 1983, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the group of 77 member states annually approve small research and collaboration projects that have directly benefited 134 countries in areas of critical importance to the Global South, such as trade, technology, agriculture, and technical cooperation. The India-UN Development Partnership Fund was established in 2017 to provide $150 million to sustainable development projects in fellow developing countries. The UN Fund for South-South Cooperation was created in 1995 by the United Nations General Assembly. In the last decade, it has received over $30 million in contributions from over 40 partners, mostly UN member states. China has been UNFSSE's major contributor, supporting global initiatives. UNFSSC also hosts a facility sponsored by the Republic of Korea, focused on promoting cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. The funds managed by UNOSSE are linked by one common element. They are guided by South-South principles and are a key instrument through which the UNOSSE delivers on its mandate of UN-wide system coordination and facilitation of South-South cooperation. They mainstream policy into practice, utilizing South-South and triangular cooperation to address common development challenges.
Unidas para la Cooperación.
I'd like to thank the UNOSSE for sharing this important video. We shall now be giving the floor to delegations who have asked to make statements in connection with this video. First, the Vice President and Minister of Palau, Ms. Ulut Senyavar, senior statement through a recorded video.
Excellencies, Ali and warm greetings from the Republic of Palau. On this occasion of the 20th session of the United Nations High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation, UNOSSC, of the United Nations General Assembly, the Republic of Palau takes the floor to express Palau's gratitude and deep appreciation of India, Brazil, and South Africa Fund, BSA, for poverty and hunger alleviation, even in the midst of this coronavirus-19 pandemic. As a beneficiary of the various funds and programs of the South-South Cooperation for Development, I offer the thanks of the people of Palau in my own deep appreciation for the efforts taken towards the betterment of small island states, such as Palau, by this august body. The Republic of Palau has benefited greatly through the assistance offered by the South-South Cooperation, through which we have made great strides towards achieving aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Through these efforts, we have been able to put into place programs to improve the quality of education offered in our republic, thereby equipping them with more skills and techniques to help strengthen their ability to guide our children in their education, as well as improving the National High School's Student Resource Center, providing a safe and conducive learning environment for our high school students. These improvements have helped us gain significant progress towards bettering the quality of our education, thus achieving our goal in SDG 4. We have also been able to use these programs in the betterment of our health services. Through the South-South Cooperation, with significant assistance by India, we have been able to make significant improvements in our national healthcare facilities. Along with these improvements, we have been able to take steps in the betterment of the most important aspect of healthcare, human resources. Through the programs provided through this body, our healthcare service providers have been able to improve their skill sets through various courses provided by the cooperation. The procurement of equipment for our nation by the cooperation has also ensured a more streamlined and efficient means of providing health care to our people. Through these exemplary programs and assistances, we have been able to take steps in the achievement of SDG 4, 6, and 11, improving the quality of our education system, providing better access to clean water and sanitation, and improving the state of our cities and communities. In closing, the Republic of Palau expresses its continued highest regards to the United Nations Conference on South-South Cooperation and the Buenos Aires Plan of Action that has enabled the small island development states, such as Palau, to benefit from its visionary works. And so I thank you. Mal Masula.
Muchas gracias, señora vicepresidenta.
Thank you, Madam Vice President and Minister from Palau. Now I have the permanent representative of Guinea, Ambassador Aline Diani, who will be speaking on behalf of the Group of 77 in China.
Esperamos al embajador.
We'll wait for Ambassador Gianni, and we will continue with the permanent representative of South Africa, Ambassador Matushoshini.
Madam President, I wish to congratulate you and the Bureau for your leadership throughout these discussions. Central to South Africa's outlook, as expressed in our foreign policy, is a deep desire to improve the living standards and well-being of Africa and of developing countries at all levels of development. South Africa is fully cognizant of the common socio-economic challenges of countries of the South. The devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has added a significant additional hurdle in the already challenging path towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by their 2030 deadline. Madam President, I wish to highlight the following. Firstly, South Africa's contribution in supporting and strengthening a multilateral approach to South-South cooperation is centered on forming partnership with other developing countries through formations such as the India-Brazil-South Africa Dialogue Forum. This partnership seeks to strengthen in the collective multilateral efforts at uplifting many people out of poverty and hunger. It has been a glowing example of South-South cooperation. As like-minded emerging economies, we recognize that we have a collective role to play in addressing and correcting the imbalances in the global economy. We therefore have undertaken to bolster efforts in addressing the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Second, the triangular character of the IPSA Forum has brought together the UN system, the IPSA member states, and third countries through the IPSA Fund. It has consequently advanced South-South cooperation objectives in a tangible and impact-driven manner through the IPSA Fund for Poverty and Hunger Alleviation. Since its inception in 2005, the IPSA Fund has partnered with several UN member states, mostly in Africa and the least developed countries. In its 15 years of operations, it has promoted all 17 SDGs in 31 countries through 35 projects to the approximate value of USD 40 million. Many of these projects provided much needed relief and hope to the recipient countries, demonstrating our collective will in the fight against hunger and poverty. In addition to receiving international awards, the work of the fund has been recognized by the UN as the preeminent South-South funding mechanism and as a model for South-South cooperation for the international community to emulate. With the global efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, most recently, the World Health Organization modeled its training program for its healthcare workers operating in far-flung remote areas on an IPSA-funded health e-learning project platform developed for Vietnam's rural healthcare workers. Thirdly, IPSA has shown that countries of the Global South can also advance trilateral cooperation on their own terms in a substantive and meaningful manner, and most importantly, in accordance with South-South principles. We are pleased to showcase results on the ground, putting into evidence why the UN system and member states engage with partnering countries in efforts to promote, frame, and enable delivery on the South-South agenda. Madam President, in conclusion, the IPSA Fund partnership has and will continue to play a supportive role in advancing a progressive developmental agenda that seeks to extricate people from underdevelopment and poverty. It is our belief that through our collective effort, we will be able to confront the challenges and seize the opportunity that this new age of development presents. We wish to thank all our partners, including the UN Office of South-South Cooperation, for their assistance and support in ensuring the success of this program. I thank you. Muchas gracias a la señora.
I thank the Ambassador of South Africa for her statement. I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of India, Ambassador Tirumurti.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my distinct honor and privilege to take the floor as we prepare to conclude the deliberations at the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested the resilience of multilateral institutions, and they have been found wanting. The loss of human lives have been compounded by the socio-economic hardship unleashed by the pandemic. Recovery, resilience, and reform is the need of the hour. It is in this context that South-South cooperation needs to acquire a renewed vigor, since we, the South, are closer to the reality of the South and have appropriate solutions. Madam President, historically, India has prioritized cooperation over conflict, coexistence over competition, sharing over receiving, and shared prosperity over zero-sum notions of growth. It was a manifestation of the spirit of solidarity that during the ongoing pandemic, India had reached out to more than 150 countries, offering critical medical equipment, and vaccines. The recent second wave of the pandemic in India saw an outpouring of immense goodwill from all across the world. We expressed our gratitude to all those who have come forward to support us. Over the years, India's development partnership has evolved organically to touch upon the full spectrum of human endeavor. Time and again, we have consciously taken steps to reinforce these links with new ties, new initiatives, new technological and digital solutions, new sectors of engagement, and new paradigms of cooperation. Madam President, as the Ambassador of South Africa just mentioned, the IPSA Fund is an exemplary manifestation of a partnership between three robust and resilient emerging economies to ensure for developing countries equal opportunity of development with sustainable and economic growth. Till date, 31 partner countries have benefited from an exchange of knowledge, skills, and technologies across 35 developmental projects to deliver indigenous solutions for their people. I would also like to take this opportunity to touch on the India-UN Development Partnership Fund, which was established in 2017. In a short span of 4 years, the fund has developed a portfolio of 64 development projects in partnership with 48 developing countries, focusing on South-led, demand-driven development and transformational projects. Through these funds, it has been our endeavor to focus on inter alia climate resilience, environmental sustainability, gender equality, renewable energy, improving maternal health, water and sanitation, education, employment and livelihoods, disaster recovery and risk management, agricultural development, and infrastructure. Madam President, at a time when funds for achieving SDGs are getting squeezed or reprioritized to more immediate requirements due to the pandemic, we need to ensure that the funds are utilized to the optimum to achieve the SDGs. India's approach will continue to be human-centric, based on the principles of mutual respect and national ownership, with a commitment to sustainable development for all. I also wish to take this opportunity to acknowledge and congratulate the UNOSSC and its excellent team, and also all the UN agencies which have tirelessly worked to partner alongside us in making this vision of South-South cooperation a success. As Swami Vivekananda, a renowned philosopher from India, said, and I quote, "Each nation must give in order to live. When you give life, you will have life. When you receive, you must pay for it by giving it to all others." I thank you.
Agradecemos especialmente.
I would like to especially thank the distinguished Ambassador of India for that statement. And now I'll give the floor to Guinea, who is in the room, to speak now on behalf of the Group of 77 in China.
Madam President, from the outset, the Group of 77 and China would like to congratulate you and your Bureau for successfully guiding the work of the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. Under your able leadership, we have had very fruitful discussion on the role of South-South cooperation in achieving the Sustainable Development Goal through the effective implementation of the BAPA 14 outcome document while responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and similar global crises. Also, allow me to congratulate our delegation for the successful and consensual adoption of the draft decision on South-South cooperation that will guide the work of the high-level committee until 2023. We would like to express our sincere appreciation for the constructive engagement and for the spirit of flexibility and solidarity shown by delegation during the negotiation process. We would also like to thank the UN Office for South-South Cooperation for their continued support and assistance throughout this process. May I also take this opportunity to congratulate the Acting Director of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, Mr. Adel Abdelatif, for his variable contribution and vision for South-South cooperation and leading the preparatory process on this session. I would also like to express our sincere thanks to the Administrator of UNDP for his able leadership and strong support to South-South cooperation, and I acknowledge the presence of the Associate Administrator of UNDP. We extend our thanks to UNDP for continuing hosting the UN Office for South-South Cooperation over the year as the system-wide focal point on South-South cooperation. The G77 and China look forward to the support of the Executive Board of UNDP in the context of the next strategic framework on UNOSSC 2022-2025. Madam President, this year's decision is of particular importance as this is the first adopted after the High-Level Committee in 2016 and after the adoption of the BAPA 14. The decision which the committee has adopted by consensus presents an opportunity for us to embark on a reinvigorating era for South-South and triangular cooperation. It is now up to us to continue to work together to ensure that progress made to date in South-South cooperation can be advanced in the year to come. The many challenges facing developing countries demonstrate that international cooperation for development remains an imperative. The decision is not only to take stock of the progress made in the implementation of the BA 14 outcome document, but also highlight the important role of South-South and triangular cooperation in the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Group of 77 and China believe that we have a solid ground to advance the implementation of the BAPA outcome as well as to support the promotion of South-South and triangular cooperation. We would like to seize this opportunity to reflect on the increasing importance of South-South cooperation and raise the awareness of the international community on its continued relevance. In closing, the group also called upon the international community for foster and strengthen initiative, commitment, ambition, and objective generated since BAPA 40 while contributing to the role playing by SouthSouth and triangular cooperation in supporting all development countries to achieve sustainable development. I thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much to the representative of Guinea who spoke on behalf of the Group of 77 in China. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Brazil, Ambassador Ronaldo Costa Filho.
President, Ambassador Maria del Carmen Squef, permanent representative of Argentina to the United Nations. Mr. Adel Abdelatif, Director ad interim of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. Dear colleagues, it is with great satisfaction that Brazil takes part in this closing session of the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. The past 5 years since the last session of this committee in 2016 have been transformative. Once just an idea, the ambitious 2030 agenda is now the guiding compass that serves all countries in their paths towards sustainable development. In order to rise to this occasion, the United Nations has been adapting its capacities through a comprehensive repositioning of the UN development system to better support countries in their priorities and needs. South-South and triangular cooperation was reimagined and updated in the second United Nations High-Level Conference on South-South Cooperation, BAPA Plus 40. Finally, the recently adopted QCPR provided the tools for the system to better perform and deliver. These are monumental accomplishments that have set the stage for our deliberations and debates during this session. Madam President, Brazil has long been a strong advocate for South-South and triangular cooperation, and we see many comparative advantages of this cooperation modality. Those include reduced operational costs and the possibility of exchanging best practices, building capacities, and responding to development challenges shared by countries of the South. Through our partnership with India and South Africa with the IBSA Fund, these words are translated into concrete action with positive, real-life implications. Allow me to underline that the projects submitted to the IBSA Fund must have, starting from their very design, strong capacity building and knowledge sharing components, which we believe are key for the long-term success of any initiative that aims at shifting the well-being of the communities and helping countries to reach the 2030 agenda. Cooperation based on experience sharing and on enhancing local capacities is particularly relevant if we put into perspective all that is needed to mitigate and overcome the devastating consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic in the developing world. We must acknowledge the role and potential of South-South and triangular cooperation to respond, rebuild, and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And we call upon all development partners to provide more efficient and effective responses to the needs of developing countries. Brazil would like to thank UNOSC for organizing this special segment on the trust funds in support of South-South and triangular cooperation. And in particular, we appreciate that UNOSC has been managing the IBSA Fund since its inception. As the multilateral focal point to promote South-South and triangular cooperation in the United Nations Development System, UNOSC can count on our continued support. Let me also reiterate our appreciation for UNDP for hosting UNOSC and for providing the technical support that is needed to advance the agenda of South-South and triangular cooperation. In conclusion, I congratulate Your Excellency, Madam President, on your skillful steering of this 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. I thank you.
Deseo agradecer especialmente.
I would like to warmly thank the permanent representative of Brazil, Ambassador Ronaldo Costafilo. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Nepal, Ambassador Amrit Bahadur Rai.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the presentation of the video has set the right tone for this closing segment by depicting the examples of South-South cooperation in action. And this presentation also augments the spirit of the deliberations that we have had on the South-South cooperation over this week. I'd also like to thank UN Office for South-South cooperation for their support in Nepal, including at this crucial time in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. The assistance to mobilize the donation of equipment, including face masks and protection kits, is an important example of solidarity and support from UNOSSC at this time. Let me reiterate our sincere gratitude to the Government of India and Government of China for vaccine assistance to Nepal, and we are also equally grateful to all other countries who have provided their assistance to Nepal during this trying time. My delegation appreciates the UNOSSC for initiating the South-South and Triangular Cooperation CITES project through the South-South Trust Fund to facilitate South-South city-to-city exchange on agriculture sector involving 2 municipalities in Nepal. Similarly, we commend the project on hydropower research through Global South-South Development Center. We appreciate UNOSSC's role in mobilizing resource facilitating the South-South cooperation as part of the work of UN system. The operational support from other UN agencies, including UNDP, has also contributed to project implementation at the local level. Madam President, we commend the role of UN development system in serving as the conduit for South-South cooperation. UNOSSC's pilot project in Nepal on agriculture value chain development is also a timely initiative, as the government has prioritized agriculture modernization and productivity enhancement. We would like to see the outcome and lessons from the pilot project and explore the possibilities for scaling up in future. The South-South Trust Fund's support for facilitating exchange of technical expertise is equally commendable. Nepal is set to graduate from least developed countries category, but the onslaught of COVID-19 has, however, added further uncertainties and made our graduation effort an uphill task. But we are determined to overcome those arduous yet surmountable challenges and reset our economy in a high growth trajectory. In such a context, all forms of cooperation, including South-South cooperation, will be crucial for Nepal to combat the pandemic and quickly move to rebuilding the resilient economy to achieve the SDGs. We appreciate the continued and enhanced support in the form of South-South cooperation. And finally, Madam President, mainstreaming South-South cooperation into the United Nations development system is equally important, and we wish to see the scaling up of such efforts in the days ahead. Thank you, Madam President.
Muchas gracias.
I thank the permanent representative of Nepal for his statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of the Republic of Gambia, Ambassador Lang Yabu.
Thank you, Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address the closing of the 20th session of the UN General Assembly High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation and make my intervention on behalf of the Republic of the Gambia. Madam President, we thank you for your leadership
I also associate my delegation with the statement delivered by the Republic of Guinea. I would also like to take this opportunity to commend the support of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation through its trust funds and global projects that have benefited and supported many developing countries in their journey towards achieving sustainable development. Here, I would like to highlight one such example of South-South Silk Road Cities project, which is a global project implemented by UNOSSC with funding support from the government of China to the UN Fund for South-South Cooperation. The cities project has been engaged in supporting city-level development activities in Banjul, the capital of the Gambia. Since 2018, Banjul City Council has been an active partner of the cities project, contributing to South-South knowledge exchanges and sharing local efforts and good practices in green economy, waste management, and COVID-19 response. Since the onset of the pandemic, UNOSSC, through its cities project, has facilitated the mobilization and deployment of over 220,000 face masks donated to the city of Banjul to support its COVID-19 response efforts. Additionally, UNOSSC's India-UN Partnership Fund supported a UNESCO project using drones and early warning systems for pre- and post-floods disaster management in the Gambia. Through this project, automatic weather stations and hydrometric equipment for the setting up of the early warning systems will be purchased. Training on photogrammetry needed for monitoring of disasters and for planning escape routes would be provided. Disaster risk reduction will also be incorporated into the Gambia's educational curricula. The Gambia is privileged to be associated with the UNOSSC through the India and China funded projects. The rich history of South-South and triangular cooperation and the progress and achievements made since Buenos Aires Plan of Action, the Nairobi Outcome Document, and the Outcome Document of the Second High-Level United Nations Conference on South-South Cooperation, BAPA Plus 40, can help in addressing the immediate impact of COVID-19, help complement the efforts of developing countries working hard to strengthen their capacities, exchange information and good practices, and promote coordinated action. In conclusion, I once again extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation to the UNOSSC and all the donors for the various projects, especially those in the Gambia. We thank everyone for the solidarity and look forward to further collaboration and partnerships, especially as we recover and build back better and forge ahead to achieve sustainable development. The Gambia is a strong supporter for South-South cooperation. Please count on our continued partnership and support. I thank you.
Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of the Gambia for his statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Fiji, Ambassador Satyendra Prasad.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor, and thank you very much for steering this week so excellently, and for steering the closing segment. The Fiji delegation thanks you and the Office of South-South Cooperation for coordinating this high-level session so well. I acknowledge and recognize the very rich contributions that have been made by so many delegations throughout the past week. We have heard many perspectives. A thread that cuts across so many is the importance, urgency, and relevance of South-South cooperation to the Global South in meeting the SDGs. Madam Chair, the strength of relations between countries are rarely tested during good times. They are tested best when the chips are down and when the stresses are acutest. South-South cooperation demonstrated its value more forcefully than ever before during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the vaccine supplies were cut off, vaccines from India, vaccines from China continued to flow to so many developing countries, and especially to small island states, for which Fiji will be eternally grateful. The social and economic crisis that COVID has demonstrated so extensively again stresses the importance of South-South cooperation to countries like my own and to so many other countries for their relevance, for their appropriateness, for their speed, for their ability to cut through the bureaucracy. And I thank very much the Office of the South-South Cooperation and UNDP for hosting the office and being able to provide support speedily, mobilize resources speedily, and deliver impact on ground. I especially thank the governments of India, China, Indonesia, and so many others who have provided through these facilities, South Africa and Brazil, support to Fiji and many of the Pacific island states. It's also important in our closing segment to remember that the global economy is structured on backs of historical inequality and historical injustices, and many of these continue and are reflected in the institutions of global governance today. We therefore need to remind ourselves that South-South cooperation complements North-South cooperation. It is not a substitute, and neither is it a displacement. Madam Chair, my last point is that the countries of the South and countries everywhere are reeling from the impacts of runaway climate change. And in many countries, like my own, climate change is wiping out years and decades of development in single catastrophic events. This is also an occasion, therefore, for a reminder to developed countries that the 100 billion per year of climate finance is a commitment of both trust and it's a commitment of faith. And climate finance does not replace development finance. It is in addition to development finance. Madam Chair, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and to all our colleagues, thank you very much for rich participation and for such a productive week. And my full statement will be given to the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias.
I thank the representative of Fiji for that statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of Korea. Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of Korea, as the second largest contributor to the UN Fund for South-South Cooperation, has been a long-standing partner with the UN OSSC on technical cooperation among developing countries. Building on the lessons learned from our One Development Pathway, Korea values science, technology, innovation, and knowledge sharing as crucial towards achieving the SDGs. In this context, since 2011, Korea has contributed to UN OSSC's efforts to promote and implement technical cooperation among developing countries through the ROK UN OSSC facility with the 2 consecutive 5-year programs. The key to this collaboration in the course of the first and second phase of the facility, which spans from the 2011 to 2021, lies in integrated approaches with multi-stakeholders, including central governments, local governments, academia, and the local private sector. This resulted in better defined and designed initiatives which are more responsive to the country's needs. We observed that partners are particularly proud of their achievements pertaining to integrated village development. This includes health education, renewable energy use, access to clean water, and women's participation in business through enhanced training in ICT and transformative results on their role as income earners and leaders in their communities and households. In its third phase, which will span from 2021 to 2025, we look forward to the facility building regional models and initiatives to combat the imminent climate crisis. The third phase will implement it in the context of the global climate crisis, the impact of which has overlaid with existing development challenges, such as the inclusion of vulnerable groups. We expect that our third phase investment will support the development of sustainable and resilient use of resources in the Mekong River Basin, based on water, energy, food nexus approach, and reinforce the Mekong region's capacity to respond to the imminent climate crisis. Bearing in mind the climate crisis knows no borders, my delegation sincerely hopes that cooperation and mutual learning between the Republic of Korea and the Mekong states can provide insights into how South-South and triangular cooperation help countries address cross-border issues. While actively responding to the cross-border issues, including the climate crisis, the Republic of Korea will continue to play a bridging role between advanced and developing countries to bolster international solidarity and cooperation. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Republic of Korea for that statement. I'd like to thank all the representatives, especially the 3 delegations with the fund, Brazil, India, and South Africa, for their cooperation. There are others with great cooperation, such as Korea, and we've also heard from others. Now we shall now take up our official business with item 8 of our agenda, adoption of the report of the working group. Let me start by paying tribute to our Vice President, Ms. Dalia Saukauskienė of Lithuania, who served as chairperson, cum rapporteur of the working group. Now I invite her, Mrs. Saukauskienė, to report on the committee, on the group's deliberations. You have the floor.
Madam President, thank you for giving me the floor. I have the honor to report to the plenary the results of the work of the working group of the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. I am grateful that the working group elected me additionally as its rapporteur. I am therefore giving this report to the plenary as chairperson, cum rapporteur of the working group. Madam President, the group officially began its work in the morning of Thursday, 3rd of June. Its work was greatly facilitated by the very useful informal negotiations which preceded its formal opening. Our work was on the basis of a draft decision introduced by Guinea on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, contained in document SSC/20/L5. I am now pleased to submit to you, Madam President, and to the High-Level Committee the results of the deliberations of the working group. They are contained in the draft decisions SSC/20/L5 and SSC/20/L6. They are submitted in my name as chair cum rapporteur of the working group. Nevertheless, I want to express deep gratitude to all colleagues, especially the facilitator, Ms. Mariam Hamdouni of Morocco, and other coordinators who greatly contributed to our progress. I thank all colleagues in the working group for their hard work, perseverance, diplomatic skills, and sense of compromise, which brought us these positive results. On behalf of all my colleagues in the working group, I have the honor to recommend these 2 draft decisions to the High-Level Committee for adoption. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Damos las gracias a la presidenta y relator.
I thank the chairperson cum rapporteur of the working group for her report. I thank her and all the interlocutors, including Ms. Miriam Hamdouni of Morocco, and the chair of the Group of 77 in China, and the coordinators of the various regional and other groups who worked so hard and so constructively to enable the working group to submit agreed draft decisions for the high-level committee's approval this afternoon. The high-level committee will now consider the draft decisions proposed to us by the working group. Let us take up the first draft decision contained in document SSC/20L5, entitled South-South Cooperation.
Hay dos cuestiones, ¿no? Que
There are two questions. This was the subject of extensive consultations, after which it was approved by the working group. May I take it that the high-level committee wishes to adopt the draft decision contained in document SSC/20/L5?
no habiendo.
I see no objection. The decision is adopted.
Abordaremos ahora el segundo.
We shall now take up the second draft decision, which comes under item 9, approval of the provisional agenda for the 21st session of the committee. We have before us a draft decision submitted by the working group in document SSC/20/L6.
Hay comentarios sobre.
Are there any comments on this proposal contained in SSC/20/L6?
Puesto que no hay comentarios.
As there are no comments, may I take it that the high-level committee wishes to approve the provisional agenda? No comments on this topic?
Debo entonces considerar que el comité de alto.
May I take it that the high-level committee wishes to approve the provisional agenda for the 21st session of the high-level committee as proposed in document SSC/20/L6? It is so decided. SSC/20/L6 is thus adopted. Having now adopted the two decisions from the working group, I must again convey our thanks to the chairperson cum rapporteur of the group, Vice President Mrs. SouthSouth, for a job very well done. Thank you ever so much. On behalf of the high-level committee, I also thank all the delegates who worked with her constructively. And this has allowed us to have the positive and substantive outcome today as adopted. I thank you all.
Distinguidos delegados, doy por iniciado.
Distinguished delegates, this brings us to item 10, other matters. Are there any matters that delegations wish to raise at this time?
Veo que no.
I see none. We have thus concluded the consideration of item 10 of the agenda.
Ahora abordaremos.
We will now take action on the last item on our agenda, item 11, the adoption of the report of the high-level committee on its 19th session. I give the floor to the rapporteur of the high-level committee, Mr. Hashimu Gusau Abubakar, to present his report.
Madam President, thank you for giving me the floor. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce the draft report of the High-Level Committee on the work of its 20th session. In doing so, Madam President, allow me to express my gratitude and that of my country, Nigeria, for the honor you have done us by electing me as the rapporteur of this important body, the General Assembly High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. Madam President, the draft report of the committee, which I now submit to you, is contained in document SSC/20/L4. It is in various chapters. A prominent place which will be given to the two decisions which emanated from the working group and which the committee has just adopted. The other chapters of the report related to the procedural and organizational matters and the general discussions in which many member state group of state, IGOs, UN agencies, as well as the NGOs and other bodies and entities participated. There is a summary of the very stimulating thematic discussions at which we had several eminent panelists. The outcome of the working group under the leadership of our Vice President, Mrs. Dalia Sulkonskini of Lithuania, is of course the two decisions adopted by the committee this afternoon. Then there's a chapter on the organizational matters, including the election of the Bureau, the attendance, the agenda, and the organization of the committee's work. The annex will contain the list of participants and the list of the document before the sessions. With your kind permission, Madam President, allow me to make a few observations of necessity. The draft report was prepared under pressure of the time and with the information available to us at that time. Now that the session is being concluded, we shall proceed to complete the various parts, especially those which are currently marked to be adopted. Madam President, with that clarification, allow me to suggest that we follow the practice which we have adopted successfully in previous sessions. This procedure is that delegates and other participants be given several days in which to review this draft report and to submit to the Secretariat any amendment and that they wish to propose to the narrative and other procedural and organizational matters. The rapporteur will then be authorized to finalize this narrative and organizational part as usual. I hope that distinguished colleagues will agree to this methodology in order to move swiftly in our work. Finally, Madam President, I wish to thank all participants for the cooperation which they have shown me throughout the sessions. It is much appreciated. I must also express my gratitude to the UN Conference Services, Document Control, and especially the translators, interpreters, and other technical services. Moreover, I thank particularly the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation under the leadership of Mr. Adel Abdul Latif, Director ad interim of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, and Mr. Tariq Izrarin, Deputy Director for Policy and Strategic Partnership of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, who work very hard to help me prepare the report. I'm deeply indebted to them for this and other assistance cooperations during these sessions. As I said, we will be ready to receive from participants any proposal for corrections or amendment to this draft report, which I now have the honor to submit to the High-Level Committee for approval. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Muchísimas gracias al representante de Nigeria.
I thank the representative of Nigeria, Mr. Hashimo Gusau Abubakar, for his introduction of the report. Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, may I now invite you to direct your attention to the report of the High-Level Committee contained in SSC/20/L4. As the rapporteur has said, the report of the committee is composed of 3 parts. Decisions adopted, the procedure and organizational parts, and the sections narrating the substantive discussions. We have just now already adopted the first part, decisions 1 and 2. As for the other parts, the procedural and organizational sections, and that on the narrative parts contained in document SSC 20L4, I wish to repeat the suggestion of the rapporteur, put to the high-level committee the procedure that we followed successfully in the past, namely, inasmuch as these sections contain organizational matters and statements of position by speakers, any delegations that so wish may submit additional remarks, revisions, amendments, or other changes to the rapporteur, who, with the assistance of the Secretariat, would be authorized to finalize the texts. We shall thus ensure that the narrative part adequately reflects the views of delegations as they have expressed those views in the committee at this session. Delegations can submit their changes to the rapporteur up to the 11th of July this year. The high-level committee thus can the high-level committee accept this procedure?
Puesto que no hay.
As there are no objections, may I take it that the high-level committee wishes to approve the report of its 20th session? As there have been no objections, the report is adopted.
Distinguidos delegados.
Distinguished delegates, we have considered all the items on our agenda. As we come to the closure of the session, I will give the floor to the Associate Administrator of UNDP, Mr. Huali Shu.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's a privilege to speak on behalf of the Administrator and the Associate Administrator. Madam President, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to speak in front of you today. I wish to congratulate you, Madam President, and your newly elected Bureau for your dedication to the cause of SouthSouth cooperation for development, as evidenced by the high levels of participation and vigorous deliberation and discussions and debate seen over the couple of days over this week. UNDP stands ready to work very closely with you over the next 2 years to bring forth the vision expressed in your decisions. This year, we enjoyed a historically high levels of participation at the ministerial level, at the high-level committee. This high-level vision and guidance will guide us in our work, and we will work diligently to meet your expectations and to report progress during the next high-level committee session. I would like to express our sincere gratitudes to member states, international organizations, representatives of UN organizations and entities, and the civil society organizations for your enthusiastic participation in this 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. We are gratified by the insightful statements made over the past 4 days. You have highlighted the important contribution and the great potential of South-South and triangular cooperation for the eradication of poverty in all its forms and for the achievement of the SDGs. During the pandemic, and especially in relation to vaccine access, you have recognized that South-South cooperation has shown us an equitable way to build back better for an inclusive, greener, and bluer recovery. I wish to thank the panelists who, during the thematic discussions of the session, presented interesting and insightful viewpoints on how we can accelerate the achievement of the SDGs through effective implementation of the BAPA plus 40 outcome document of the second United Nations Conference on South-South Cooperation. You have shown us that South-South cooperation through multi-stakeholder partnerships and with the support of the United Nations system can lead to socio-economic transformation through infrastructural development, job creation, technology transfer, and equitable and inclusive access to vaccines. The high-level session has shown us that the United Nations family is firmly committed to responding to the surge in demand for South-South and triangular cooperation. In this regard, UNDP is very proud to contribute to the United Nations system-wide strategy on South-South and triangular cooperation for sustainable development, developed by the United Nations Interagency Mechanism for South-South and triangular cooperation through a highly consultative and inclusive process led by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation. UNDP is committed to working closely with all UN entities to ensure coordination and coherence in this important area of work. Excellencies, UNDP is very proud to host and support the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation as the United Nations system-wide focal point on South-South cooperation and the substantive secretariat of this committee. We are encouraged by your appreciation and support for the work of the office. We also note your recognition of the important efforts made by UNOSSC in improving its accountability, transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness. Finally, UNDP shares the view emphasized here this week that we must effectively leverage South-South and triangular cooperation if we wish to achieve the internationally agreed development goals, including the SDGs. In fact, South-South cooperation is one of the best approaches we have at our disposal to build capacities and meet these goals, as it draws on what has proven to work in reducing poverty and in improving people's lives. I thank you.
Agradecemos al...
I thank the Assistant Secretary General and Director of the Bureau for Policy and Program Support for his final statement. On behalf of the High-Level Committee and in my own name, let me express our gratitude to Mr. Haoliang Shu and to the Administrator of the UNDP, for Mr. Ashim Steiner, for the strong support that UNDP gives to South-South and triangular cooperation. We have no reason to doubt that the priority given to South-South and triangular cooperation by UNDP will continue and be strengthened in the future. I now give the floor to Mr. Abdel Abdelatif, Director of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, UNDP Assistant Administrator and Director of Bureau for Policy and Program Support, Mr. Haoliang Chu, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Bureau of the High-Level Committee for a successful 20th session under the able leadership of its President, Her Excellency Ms. Maria del Carmen Squiff. This has been a very challenging session given the virtual working environment, and you have, Madam President, very skillfully guided us to this closing meeting. I thank all distinguished delegates, negotiators, and panel presenters who have delivered important statements on South-South and triangular cooperation over the past 4 days. We are honored to have welcomed participants at the highest level from over 80 member states, including a head of state and ministers from around the world, as well as 23 intergovernmental organizations, 25 UN entities, civil society, and the private sector. More than 400 persons participated during side events which the High-Level Committee distinguished bureau members took the lead in organizing on issues of importance to the South. This participation, plus the over 500,000 people who followed the discussions via social media, is an indication of the interest and engagement in taking South-South cooperation to the next chapter. Information about your work here was seen more than 6 million times online. We are grateful to all member states, intergovernmental organizations, United Nations entities, and civil society organizations for sharing their perspectives, experiences, and prospects with respect to South-South and triangular cooperation throughout the plenary sessions, thematic session, side events, as well as the interagency mechanism on the sidelines of the High-Level Committee. As the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation has started to formulate its new strategic framework for 2022-2025, deliberations during this session and decisions that you have taken will be important guidance for the work of our office and the new strategic framework. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation is committed to promote, coordinate, and support South-South and triangular cooperation both globally and within the UN system. In the recent years, with the formulation of the UN system-wide strategy on South-South and triangular cooperation and its action plan, and the establishment of the United Nations interagency mechanism for South-South and triangular cooperation, with strong support from United Nations entities that joined the mechanism, we have been heading to a new stage of leveraging and scaling up South-South and triangular cooperation for development goals. Along with this strategic progress, key trends of South-South and triangular cooperation, such as the strengthening of regional integration and inter-regional cooperation, multi-stakeholder approach, growing number of actors participating in South-South initiatives, recognized significance of knowledge and practice sharing, innovative financing mechanisms, as well as increasing support for triangular cooperation, have shown the great prospects of South-South and triangular cooperation for sustainable development goals. Please allow me to take this opportunity to thank all member states, intergovernmental organizations, civil society organizations, and UN agencies for generous encouragement and strong support, and for kindly acknowledging the work and role of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation in building networks, policy making, raising awareness, and promoting South-South and triangular cooperation. As highlighted by member states and UN agencies during this session, that South-South and triangular cooperation has proven to be crucial mechanisms in times of COVID-19 response and recovery, and in achieving sustainable development goals. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation cannot make these achievements without continued support from member states, without active engagement and support of all United Nations organizations, specialized agencies, funds and programs, the regional commissions, other partners from the intergovernmental organizations, civil societies, including think tanks, and most importantly, without UNDP, our generous host. Beyond hosting, the UNDP administrator and his senior management team and UNDP country offices have over the years given the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation the confidence, the policy space, and the means to effectively enable member states to share perspectives on South-South and Triangular cooperation and make informed decisions in order to guide South-South and Triangular cooperation for development. UNDP support has also enabled our office to meaningfully engage in and forge partnerships for concrete South-South and Triangular cooperation initiatives towards achieving sustainable development goals and in COVID-19 response and recovery. I'm also very grateful to the staff at the United Nations Secretariat, UNDP leadership and colleagues, and my own team who have worked tirelessly over the past few months to ensure all the Secretariat support. Madam President, as your high-level committee secretariat, we are committed to supporting your presidency and leadership, the work of the Bureau, and the needs of member states with the utmost diligence during the 20th session. Thank you, Madam President.
Al señor Abdelatif.
I thank Mr. Abdelatif for that statement. I'd like to give the floor now to any delegation wishing to take the floor at this time.
Tengo anotada la delegación de...
I have Guinea on behalf of the group of 77 in China.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam. I will speak again because I was supposed to be speaking about the video that we saw at the beginning of the meeting, but I instead, but now I need to speak about the closing. Madam Chair.
The group of 77 in China would like to congratulate you and your Bureau for successfully guiding the work of the 20th session of the High-Level Committee of South-South Cooperation. Under your able leadership, we have had very fruitful discussion on the role of South-South cooperation in achieving the sustainable development goal through the effective implementation of the bipartisan outcome document while responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and similar global crises. Also, allow me to congratulate all delegations for the successful and consensual adoption of the draft decision of South-South cooperation that will guide to work of the high-level committee until 2023. We would like to express our sincere appreciation for the constructive engagement and for the spirit of flexibility and solidarity shown by the delegation during the negotiation process. We would also like to thank the UN Office for South-South Cooperation for their continued support and assistance all throughout this process. May I also take this opportunity to congratulate the Acting Director of the United Office for South-South Cooperation, Mr. Abdel Abdelatif, for his valuable contribution and vision for South-South cooperation and leading the preparatory process of this session. I would also like to express our sincere thanks to the Administrator of UNDP for his able leadership and strong support to South-South cooperation. And I acknowledge the presence of the Associate Administrator of UNDP. We extend our thanks to UNDP for continuing hosting your United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation over the year as the system-wide focal point on South-South cooperation. The G77 and China look forward to the support of the Executive Board of UNDP in the context of the next strategic framework on UNO's SSC 2022-2025. Madam President, this year's decision is Of particular importance at this is the first adopted after the high-level committee in 2016 and after the adoption of the BAPA 40. The decision which the committee has adopted by consensus presents an opportunity for us to embark on a reinvigorated area for South-South and triangular cooperation. It is now up to us to continue to work together to ensure that progress made to date in South-South cooperation can be advanced in the year to come. The many challenges facing developing countries demonstrated that international cooperation for development remains an imperative. The decision is not only to take stock of the progress made in the implementation of the BAPA 14 outcome document, but also highlight the important role of South-South and triangular cooperation in the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The group of 77 and China believe that we have a solid ground to advance the implementation of the BAPA outcome as well as to support the promotion of South-South and triangular cooperation. We would like to seize this opportunity to reflect on the increasing importance of South-South cooperation and raise the awareness of the international community on its continued relevance. In closing, the group also called upon the international community to foster and strengthen initiatives, commitment, ambition, and objective generated since BAPA 14, while contributing to the role played by South-South and triangular cooperation in supporting all development countries to achieve sustainable development. I thank you.
Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of Guinea who spoke on behalf of the group of 77 in China. I'd like to ask now if there is any other delegation wishing to take the floor.
Veo que ninguna otra delegación.
I see no other requests for the floor. Distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of this momentous and significant 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation, I wish to thank all delegations, including member states, intergovernmental organizations, United Nations entities, and non-governmental organizations for their commitment to strengthening South-South and triangular cooperation. The COVID-19 pandemic and the multidimensional crisis generated by it has tested the commitment arrived at the second United Nations Conference on South-South Cooperation in Buenos Aires 2019. However, here evidence has shown the solidarity among developing countries to overcome the greatest odds against humanity together. Over the last 4 days, there has been a resounding underlying message highlighted by all delegations. South-South and triangular cooperation is ever more important and in fact an imperative during the decade of action to deliver the 2030 promise and during the response and recovery phases of the COVID-19 pandemic. Distinguished delegates, huge challenges remain in our journey towards the Sustainable Development Goals and in addressing the devastating socioeconomic consequences in the aftermath of the pandemic. Countries of the Global South, particularly LDCs, SIDS, LLDCs, continue to face a high prevalence of poverty, malnutrition, and unemployment, deficits in infrastructure and productive capacities, and the impact of crises and external shocks, and high indebtedness. We should also not overlook that these challenges are present in middle-income countries, where there have been serious problems due to the pandemic. Also, to strengthen cooperation for development, we need more in quantity, access, and quality of financing for development, including sustainable and in favorable conditions responding to the needs and development priorities set by our countries. I would also like to reaffirm the need for all developed countries to intensify all efforts to honor commitments regarding ODA. In this context, the subject of our thematic discussion on June 2nd, accelerating the achievement of the SDGs through effective implementation of the BAPA plus 40 outcome document while responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and similar global crises, was very timely, and it has given us an opportunity to identify practical ways to move forward for equitable recovery, looking at the role of the UN and its entities, good practices in southern countries in capacity building, the impact of regional and interregional cooperation, and the successful efforts of South-South and triangular cooperation for equitable and inclusive access to vaccine, treatment, diagnosis, and medical treatment. The United Nations entities are important partners in these common efforts to support efforts of southern countries to achieve sustainable development goals, addressing priorities of development as set at national level. As has been pointed out in various contexts of development, the UN has facilitated exchange of knowledge, experience, technology, and other development solutions to build human institutional capacity in developing countries. Institutions have also contributed with governments in strengthening policy, strategy, and development activities at national level for South-South and triangular cooperation, enhancing coordination mechanisms. At these crucial times, we have to be determined in supporting multilateralism, strengthening the mechanisms for dialogue, political consultation, and cooperation, as we see in the UN at global level and sub-regional and regional level. I would like to stress the importance of finalization of the comprehensive strategy of the United Nations on South-South and triangular cooperation. This will provide a clear guide for all entities at all levels to adopt specific measures helping member states face the challenges for development. And at the same time, this will allow to simplify instruments and actions for South-South and triangular cooperation in strategic frameworks of UN entities globally and in sustainable development cooperation frameworks at country level and in regional sustainable development frameworks. The BAPA plus 40 final outcome document needs effective implementation, and this calls for a commitment not only on the part of the Global South countries, but also developed countries and the entire United Nations system, intergovernmental organizations, the private sector, civil society, and international financial institutions, inter alia. In the context where the impact of the pandemic pandemic has hit developing countries particularly, it's not realistic to think that South-South cooperation financed by these countries on its own can manage to achieve the SDGs. There is no doubt today cooperation among Global South countries has been affected negatively, calling for even more mechanisms for direct aid, financial aid, debt funding, and other actions to have solvent cooperation. Strengthening national, regional, and interregional cooperation beyond borders is of vital importance to mitigate expansion and the impact of COVID-19, accelerating recovery. We have to be innovative. We have to rethink the links for South-South cooperation as a consequence of emergency measures as adopted by many of our countries. Projects in the field implementation has not been made impossible, but it has been hindered because of the pandemic, and we should devote greater efforts to guarantee digital interconnection with virtual meetings, including experts, so that exchange of capacity and cooperation in general won't be hindered at that time when it's most needed. We have to continue sharing good practices for strengthening of health systems, digital transformation, access to education, innovative social protection, equitable and fair access to medical supplies, treatment, therapeutics, vaccines, and other crucial public goods to mitigate the spread and impact of COVID-19, and also to accelerate recovery towards a healthier, resilient, sustainable, and safe planet. The 20th session of the High-Level Committee has provided a great opportunity to emphasize the importance of South-South and triangular cooperation and to renew our commitment to the promise of Buenos Aires. We have the need to move forward with specific actions to overcome present challenges. I take this opportunity to thank all member states and delegates for their contribution to the successful conclusion of this session. I also would like to thank past and new members of the High-Level Committee for their engagement and deep commitment in organizing this important event. I express my gratitude to the Office of the United Nations for South-South Cooperation for their firm and deep commitment in serving the committee as Bureau. There has been great cooperation in the organization of this meeting. I also thank the facilitator for work done during negotiations, helping delegations arrive at significant conclusions. I thank the UNDP administrator for convening the meeting, and also on behalf of the Office and High-Level Meeting, I'd like to thank the UNDP for support given to the UN for South-South cooperation, providing necessary human resources to continue serving its important function as the focal point for promoting and facilitating South-South and triangular cooperation for development in the United Nations system-wide and on a global level. Finally, I wish to commend the conference services, interpretation, audio, video, and other staff who assisted us during this session, which involved helping us overcome unique technical challenges. Distinguished delegates, convinced that the fundamental role is to serve as a platform for coordination of the different views of regions and countries for a convergence of views and interests, setting the architecture for South-South and triangular cooperation that is effective and efficient for all. That is what Argentina will be promoting in future years, with the wish that we can work together with that spirit. Concluding these final comments, it is with great satisfaction and gratitude for all of your collaboration I close the 20th session of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. Thank you.
Congratulations.